Hello there and welcome to the live stream. Today we're talking about the RødeCaster video. Obviously there's been a lot of hype and a lot of buzz about it all this week, and I released my video all about it earlier on whenever it was, Tuesday, when the embargo was lifted. So I did a full walkthrough which you can find linked in the description to all about how you can set up and use the RødeCaster video. Obviously far too much to cover in just one video, even though it went on for just over an hour. There's still lots more that I could say about it, and indeed we'll do in a series of other specific tutorial videos on some of the specific features in due course. But since releasing the video though, I've had an absolute ton of messages, comments with questions into obviously for that video, DMs, email, and then also in our Digital Stage Academy office hour sessions just yesterday. It obviously came up as a topic there with people asking questions about it as well. So what I'm going to do in this live stream is basically go and answer a load of those questions that I've already had come in. But of course, if you have got any questions as well about this really quite remarkable device, then drop them into the chat as well, and I'll do my best to answer all of those. I'm not saying I've got all the answers, but I've certainly had some experience with it, so hopefully can get those answered for you. So feel free to drop any questions you've got in the chat. So first of all, I'm just going to start off with a few of the ones that seem to have come up time and time again already. First of all, hello George. I'll just say a quick hello. Nice to see you as always, George. Oh look, there's an old comment from Rich from last week. Hey George, great to see you. The first thing is about HDMI and some of the things related to that. And the first one is, can it do 4K? And the answer is no, it is a 1080p device. So all of the camera feeds coming into it need to be 1080, and all of the outputs as well are 1080 too. So that is, you might say, a limitation. I know that a lot of people want 4K video these days. I personally still use 1080 on, even though my camera is 4K, I still stream in 1080, and all of my videos are recorded in that format as well. That's just me, but there you go. And comparing it to something like the Ecamm, then that is also a 1080 device as well. So it's kind of similar to there. I guess there's some limitations in terms of just the power required to encode 4K live, and when you're encoding multiple streams of it as well as isolated video feeds, then I guess there's some trade-off that always has to be made there. So anyway, that is just the way that it is. It is a 1080p device. The other question that's come up quite a lot, and is actually one that I've got a whole list of feature requests that I'm going to dump on them on Monday morning after I've compiled all of my thoughts, actually. But one of them, and one that's been asked for, or question that's been asked a number of times, is about HDMI Pass-through. So like on the Rode Streamer X, which is actually is a 4K device, but that has a 4K pass-through. So basically on the back there, you've got an HDMI in and you've got an HDMI out. And so if you want to, for example, capture gameplay, or you want to capture your computer monitor to be able to include that in your stream, although you probably wouldn't do that with this one in particular because you're already on your computer. But it's this idea of being able to put an HDMI cable into it, capture that video, and then pass through the HDMI to something else. So with the RødeCaster video, if you wanted to do a scene, like a screen sharing scene, let's say something like this that I've got set up here. So here is the spec sheet. So this scene here that I've created is actually in Ecamm Live. That's what I use for all of my videos and live streaming. But this kind of thing where you want to capture your computer screen to be able to demonstrate things, if you want to do that on the RødeCaster video, currently, you would have to do one of two things. Either you're going to just connect an HDMI cable to your computer and put it into the RødeCaster video as an input, but you don't actually get to see then the output on that monitor as well, if you see what I mean, unless you are, in the scene that's including that. Obviously, the thing that is, with my current setup here, if I just switch over to, I can actually switch over to this camera and show you. Here, the way that things are set up on my computer is I've got a whole bunch of things here that I'm going to want to be sharing throughout this live stream. So the different Rode apps, the PDF here that I'm going to be sharing with you. I've got a web page up there. So these are all different things that I share. And then in Ecamm Live, I have different scenes set up that are basically sharing those different portions of the screen like that. And so that's how I have things set up for sharing. So the thing is, I can obviously see all of that on my monitor. Now, if you wanted to do that with the RødeCaster video, currently you would have to have an HDMI splitter coming out of your computer so that you're feeding the computer screen feed into the RødeCaster, but it's also going out to the physical screen as well. Now, this is something that I think could be implemented as a pass-through because of the architecture of the RødeCaster video inside. It is in a similar way to the RødeCaster Pro 2 and the RødeCaster Duo, where because they've developed the CPU and the sort of internal operating system, the firmware themselves, they've got this ability to potentially do things like the audio routing that was added into the RødeCaster Pro 2 at a later date. I'm purely speculating, but I suspect that maybe it could be the case that they could also change what we get on the outputs from the RødeCaster video. And by that, what I mean is, if we just take a look at the inputs and outputs on RødeCaster video, you've got these HDMI sockets there, and you can see 1 to 4 are the inputs, but you've also got an AB output. So those two outputs there, that AB, those are the output feeds. Now, at the moment, what you can choose to have on those is you can either choose to see the output from the RødeCaster, as in just the feed, the program feed. You can also show the preview, which is if you're in the mode where you want to see a preview of what you're going to switch to next, then it can show that, or it can show the scene, the full view like this, which is called what's it called now? My mind's going completely blank. The grid view, I should say, which is where you get to see like the different camera angles that you've got and all the different settings related to the RødeCaster. So here is where you see all the different scenes that cameras you've got connected. Here is where you see all the different scenes you've got set up, and then down here you see all of the different faders and audio settings and things like that, and some other information over here. So that is one of the 3 outputs that you can have. You're either going to see that, you're going to see the program feed, which is where you're sort of flicking between your different cameras, or you can see the feed, which is the preview. So there's 2 ways you can use the RødeCaster video, which is either when you press the button, it just instantly switches to that camera or that scene, or you can use this more sort of broadcast style one, where basically you have an active scene and one that's sort of queued up in preview, and then you cut between them when you're ready. So that's just another way that you can do that. But all of this is to say that I could see the potential for maybe being able to also say on those AB outputs, maybe you want to specify that, well, actually, I would like the HDMI 1 to be passed through to that HDMI A output, for example, and then it would act as a pass-through. That's also something that's like with my setup, the way that I do what I like to call immersive presentations, where you've got things like Keynote or PowerPoint, and you're sort of integrating yourself into the slide deck. So something like this. I mean, this is just Keynote. I'm bringing my live video through Keynote, but this allows me to cycle through a presentation like this, bringing my video into Keynote first, and then in this case into Ecamm. Well, if we had a video pass-through on that HDMI, what I would personally do is, because I would use this in conjunction with a computer, I would have my video go into, let's say, HDMI 1. I would have it pass through out of A and have that going back into the computer, so that it's basically splitting my camera feed into the RødeCaster and also into the computer. I would have that going into Keynote, and then I would use the pass-through for B to pass my my video from the computer back into the RødeCaster and out through B into the monitor. So that's the way that I would do it, to be able to do this kind of thing that I'm doing right here, all on the RødeCaster video. there's too many Rodecasters, Duo, Video, and Pro 2. I'm going to keep getting those all mixed up and mixing my words, I'm afraid. But anyway, I'll do my best to try not to. So that is the long answer to the word, does it have a pass-through? So then the next thing then is about audio, and specifically the number of audio channels. And there's been so many people have said, I've already got a Rodecaster Duo or I've already got a Rodecaster Pro 2. Should I replace it with this? And really that comes down to the video component, which I'll talk about later. But in terms of the actual number of channels it's got, there is 9 channels in total. So in that respect, it is similar to the Rodecaster Pro 2, which has 6 physical faders and 3 virtual faders. So it's got the same number technically of channels, although in this case they're kind of all virtual because they all fit into those faders that we've got at the bottom. So here you can see we've got the 9 virtual channels down there. The thing that's slightly different though is there is actually 16 different options for the inputs that you can have, because it's got the 2 XLR mic inputs. In fact, let's just take another quick look at that. If I go over to this one, you can see the inputs. It's got those 2 XLR inputs, but all of those 4 HDMI channels technically can pass audio through as well. So it means that you could have a microphone plugged into a camera, for example, and be passing audio through all of those. Then you've got the 2 USB channels 1 and 2, which is specifically for audio from the computer, for example. But you've also got that 4 and 5 channel, which is for 4 and 5. I should say, not channel, the connection, the USB connection 4 and 5, which is for either a USB microphone, or you can in fact plug a Rodecaster Pro 2 or a Rodecaster Duo into those sockets there to then give you basically an external mixer that's bringing all of that in. So that then gives you ultimate expandability, because you could technically have 8 channels on the Rodecaster Video and then add another 9 from the Rodecaster Pro 2 technically. Now the question also then came in as to why would you actually do that? There is a video showing the Rodecaster Pro 2 connecting to the Rodecaster Video, and you might say, well, if it's got that built in, if it's got all of these channels built in, why might you want to do that? And really the thing that I can see there is just that having those physical faders of the Rodecaster Pro 2 or the Duo is something that some people are going to prefer. I kind of get that. I like the tactility of the physical faders on the Rodecaster Pro 2 and the Duo as well. So that is kind of in some ways lacking from the Rodecaster Video. But on the other hand, when I actually stop to sort of think about that a little bit more and start using it, the faders are not actually something that I'm using sort of actively during a live stream, for example. It's more something that I get set up and then it just sort of stays that way. So I'm not really sort of mixing things as we go along, but maybe that's just the type of content that I'm creating. So for me, that isn't actually as big of an issue as I kind of made it in my head when I started thinking about it. But anyway, the fact that you can just connect them up like that is, I guess, a nice feature. But really, I think the more common use of those extra USB channels is going to be for, as I say, connecting either a USB microphone or connecting additional cameras, because you've got 4 HDMI inputs, but you can have those external cameras, either webcams connected, USB cameras, or you can use a capture card and technically then bring in 2 extra HDMI feeds through that. So yeah, let me just check in with this question first of all, and then I'll get back to my other list. So first of all, thanks for stopping by. Hi, Ernie. From a workflow perspective, what do you like better, this or Ecamm? Not sure if you answered this before. Right, so this is kind of the biggest question that I've been asked. And there's been so many people who have said, I've got Ecamm and I've got a Rodecaster Pro 2. And Ecamm Live, by the way, is the live production software that I use to make all of my videos. I've been using it for the past 3.5 years. It's honestly what enabled me to create all the content that I have done for my channel. I've not actually made many pre-recorded videos recently. It tends to be just this weekly live stream. But certainly in the beginning of the channel, I was making a video a day, covering all sorts of tech and tutorials and things like that. Now, when I started the channel, I went down the ATEM rabbit hole to begin with. That's what I was going to look at because I saw that lots of people were using that. And I ultimately just decided against it because of ease of use, usability, and all of these kind of things, and was so happy that I found Ecamm. Now, as I say, lots of people have asked me, first of all, should they be thinking of replacing Ecamm with the RødeCaster video? Am I going to be replacing Ecamm with it? And then other people have been asking, how does it actually fit in if we want to use this with Ecamm? Now, when I did my original review video of this, the RødeCaster video a couple of days ago, I reviewed it from the perspective of it being a hardware camera switcher. And I do believe that they've basically come in as a best-in-class device. Quite honestly, compared to other things that I've tried out, and I've got a couple of other camera switches that companies have sent me to review, and I only put review videos out if it's something that I've used, I've liked, I've believed in, and quite honestly, none of the others have. So I won't mention their names. But the Ecamm, I've just never even made videos about that because I get that it's good, but it just didn't do it for me. So the RødeCaster video, my initial review video, was from that perspective. It has, as I say, changed the game for hardware switches. And the way that you make scenes in the RødeCaster video software in Rode Central from a usability point of view for a hardware switcher is just on another level to any of these other devices. I will say, though, that Ecamm is still, for me, hands down, so much easier to just create scenes. I mean, all of the scenes that I've got here are actually Ecamm. So this scene that I've got with this background is really sort of easy to create in Ecamm Live. I can do other things like, for example, have a scene like this that brings comments in. So one of the things about the RødeCaster video is it can stream to YouTube. So it's got a built-in streaming capability, so you can connect it via Wi-Fi or Ethernet. You can set up your channel in advance on the RødeCaster video, and then you can stream to YouTube from it. But you wouldn't be able to bring in comments like this without some other kind of workaround. Maybe you could use something like Social Stream Ninja to bring in the comments, bring them into a web browser, and then connect that to the RødeCaster video to enable comments to come in that way. So that's something that you're not going to be able to do. Just simple things that aren't really simple, but they appear simple. This scene that I've got here has got a bit of perspective on it. The camera has got rounded corners and drop shadows. So because of my, that was another question that came up in my video, the initial video about the RødeCaster video was how can we add the rounded corners and drop shadows like you've got in your video about it? And the answer is no, not at the moment. Whether that's something that can be added in, but at the moment you're limited to you can crop the video, you can resize it, you can and so on. The camera on the in the scene builder, but those rounded corners and drop shadows are something that is not possible. So for me, I'm definitely not replacing Ecamm with it at all, because Ecamm just has so many more, so much more versatile in terms of creating scenes. However, there is a trade-off there, which is that Ecamm is software for the Mac, first of all, so it's Mac only. There is OBS, which is a kind of similar type of thing, but I always say I pulled out my last hair with OBS before I switched to Ecamm, and so yeah, there are other software solutions, but the trade-off there is that it is, first of all, Ecamm is Mac only, but also it is using your computer's processor. So depending on the computer you've got, you might run into issues. I mean, all of the different video that I'm running right now on the computer, I mean, I've effectively got, if we just take a look at this, I've got my Ecamm Live is running over here, actually just in my teleprompter, I should say. I've got Keynote running, and I've got video running through Keynote on there. And then I've also, because we have a sort of backstage thing, I've also got Zoom running as well. And so all of these different video things that I've got going on, they're really all adding to my CPU load, my computer's loading. So there is always that that sort of issue with software solutions. As it is with Macs as they are now, I'm not running into too many issues there these days, but it is something to be aware of. The thing that the RødeCaster video gives you is it's all in one. You can have it all set up in advance with all your different scenes and so on. And so then you could literally, especially if you were doing something that was remote, you could literally just turn up, take this little thing out of your bag, and it is really quite small. I mean, it's somebody commented on my video that I spent 5 minutes talking about how small it was in the review video, but I actually think that is something worth mentioning, that it's literally only about 2 times the size of a Streamer X, and yet it's like a full RødeCaster Pro 2 and camera switcher in one. So that size thing is certainly something to consider. It's a great sort of portable device, and so you could just sort of rock up somewhere, put this down on a desk, plug in your 2 XLR microphones, plug in 2, 3, 4 cameras, and then you're sort of ready to go and ready to record. Just press the button and you're recording. So that is what this gives you that Ecamm, for example, might not. There you've got to connect your cameras through maybe multiple cam links and things like that, and then you've got to have your interface then anyway for bringing your microphones in, depending what types of microphone you're using. So there is a lot to be said for a standalone video switcher like this. But personally, I'm still using Ecamm. So then the next question then is why, how would you use this with Ecamm? I'm certainly not switching from Ecamm, but how could you use this with Ecamm? And the thing that you've got to be aware of with camera switches and with Ecamm in particular is we have the ability to have scenes set up with multiple cameras. So I've got a scene set up here with this camera behind me. I've got a separate scene set up, which is just my face on sort of camera. And then I've got another one, which is a screen share, which includes my sort of face on camera like that. I've just stuck something over the top of it. There we go. That's better. Now, the problem that you potentially run into when you're using a camera switcher with Ecamm in particular, and sorry to keep going on about Ecamm, but it's just a large portion of my audience are Ecamm users as well. So, but the thing that you run into with any camera switcher is it's only ever sending out one feed into the computer as the video feed, as in the main video from Ecamm. So what you could run into is you could say, well, I'm going to reduce the load on my computer by running all of the cameras through the RødeCaster video, and then just have one cable that connects into my computer that's taking in audio and video, and then I've got all of those different 6 cameras to choose from. And then in that case, what you could do is you could just literally have it running into Ecamm as a scene, and then use the RødeCaster as I'm doing now to switch between them, and add all of the design and things like that you want to do in the scene. What you could end up though is in a situation, if you have got a scene set up in Ecamm for screen sharing, because it's more versatile for screen sharing, then you could end up in a situation where, let's say you're on your top-down shot on the RødeCaster, and then you switch back to your screen sharing scene, and suddenly, instead of you in this area, it's got your top-down shot. So just beware of the fact that you're only getting one camera feed in. I don't know if there is any possibility in the future for actually taking, and this is my dream, is all of the camera feeds that come into the RødeCaster, being able to feed those into your computer as individual feeds, because then it would act as basically a 6-camera capture device, being able to feed into the computer 6 different camera feeds, and then it would really be an amazing pairing with Ecamm, because it would combine all of those different video sources, giving you individual use of them in Ecamm as well, and also it would combine all of those audio routing capabilities as well. So then this would just become like the ultimate video capture audio device for Ecamm, in the same way that this is great for meetings, the Streamer X, where you just want to be able to capture a mic and a camera and take that into your meetings or into Ecamm or whatever. Well, the RødeCaster video would do that then if we had those isolated video feeds into the computer. I don't know technically about the possibility of that in terms of the bandwidth required. I know that there is a product from Blackmagic, actually, who make the 8M Mini. They make a product called the Decklink Quad 4K, and that basically is for HDMI inputs, and you plug your cameras into them, and then there's just one Thunderbolt cable that goes into your computer, and that does give you 4 isolated feeds into the computer. It's not a switcher, it's just giving you those 4 feeds. So my thought process is that thought process is that technically it could be possible to be sending multiple video streams over a single cable into the computer. It just depends on what the architecture is like, and if it's possible with this device in its form or whatever. But certainly it's not possible right at the moment. One other thing though that is really nice about the RødeCaster video that isn't possible in Ecamm, and I know that this has been a feature request in Ecamm, so this could solve that problem, is they do have a video follow audio feature. Now what that means is, let's say you've got a podcast in its setup in a studio where you've got 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, whatever it is, and they've all got an individual mic and they've all got a camera that is on them, maybe one wide shot. Well, what you can do is you can set it up so that when one person speaks, then it's going to put the camera onto them, picking up that feed. And just to show you how easy that is to do, if you go into the actually Rode Central, not audio, it is an audio thing, but it's in here. It's this thing here, auto switching. So this is in Rode Central, and then you've got this option here. If I just click through this, basically here we've got our different scenes that we've got set up, and we've got our different camera inputs set up, and so what you can do is say, well, let's say camera 3 is on our guest, maybe they're on mic 2 or something like that. You can just turn on this option here, and then it says audio link, and basically you can say, right, well, if it gets sound through let's say they're on this second mic, then it's going to switch to that camera. So that's a really nice feature, and it helps with sort of production of video podcasts and video things like that, where you've got multiple people in studio. Then it can do the auto switching for you. So it could be, that would be a great sort of companion to Ecamm, because it would give you the ability to set up all your scenes, maybe bring in all your comments, do all of that kind of stuff, multi-streaming as well, which Ecamm allows you to do, and then you can just use the RødeCaster for bringing in that video and then doing all the auto switching and bringing in all the audio and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, and certainly having the video all going through the RødeCaster video definitely significantly reduces the load on your computer than having, certainly 5 or 6 cameras coming into that is going to be adding a lot of load there. So that was a really long answer to a short question. What do I like better, this or Ecamm? Yeah, my answer is that I do prefer Ecamm from an ease of use point of view. The RødeCaster is, for me, as I say, best in class for hardware video switches, but Ecamm is just on another level in terms of ease of use and flexibility in terms of what it can do. Marine X, let me just get your question up. Let me see if, there we go. I get your reasoning for not trading Ecamm for the system, but if they add the comments to the hardware and more features to scenes, could you see this one-time purchase saving money over Ecamm? Yeah, if they add in a significant amount of functionality to the interface. I mean, let me just go through some other things about it, which at the moment, like for example, I've got a video background running here. So I don't mean behind me, that's the projection onto the wall, but this one that's like up above, there's kind of like a subtle movement of things going on in this scene around me. Now that is a video. And it's a looping video. I can totally do that in RødeCaster. So it's this, let me just hide this for a second. You can see what's going on behind my camera. I've got this thing moving. Now, when I was testing the RødeCaster video, what I wanted to do is replicate this, because I wanted it to look the same so that I could show that, yes, things can look the same in RødeCaster video. And so I added it into my media library. So if we go over to this, the scene builder that we've got in RødeCaster, I actually added that animation into here, and then here we've got a scene with that video moving, and you can see actually if I go to the RødeCaster video output, this now is 100% RødeCaster video. What we've got is we've got that same moving background going on, and we've got these different camera feeds. So this is pretty close, and I should say as well, this is like a sort of 2-minute job to set this up as well. That's the thing that's really groundbreaking about this as a hardware switcher compared to the 8M and things like that, is it's just so quick to set these things up. The limitation here though is you can actually only have one video on screen at a time. So it can only play one video. So if I try to go and add in a video feed to one of these tiles, so like this video here, for example, these are cameras, obviously, and I've only got 3 attached, so I just duplicated this. But these cameras here, camera D, I could go and add an animation, or let's say this video here. Now, if I try to add that into here, it's going to say only one video clip per scene. Now, I mean, I'm being really picky there because most people don't have some sort of animated background going on. But for me, that's like, oh, well, okay, then it doesn't do that thing then that I want to have. Now, that's, again, this is part of my list of feature requests. You know, could we please have 2 videos in a scene? Because the other way that would potentially work is with things like video overlays and so on as well. So things like, for example, you know, I have these things in my live stream like this that pop up. Like if you want to book a call with me, I offer consultations on all this sort of stuff. So takeonetech.io/consultation. Little shameless plug there, but that thing that popped up was an animated overlay. Things like that are technically still possible in the RødeCaster video, but they're just a lot easier to implement in the in Ecamm. So there is that. So just coming back to your question though, I think that this has got such a huge market potential available already for people who aren't doing quite what I'm doing. And that, as I say, this whole ease of use of it is something that it's something that I could recommend to people, because Ecamm is still something that can be quite complicated at times as well. Whereas there are people I know and people that you know, I'm coaching at the moment where this is actually the perfect device for them, because all they're wanting to do is switch between a few different scenes. It's something that just sits on their desk. They don't need to have the software open. Not everybody is like me in that respect. So it's certainly going to be something that people are going to be thinking about and weighing up and making a decision as to what they want to do, because yeah, it's not everyone is quite as geeky as me in terms of what they particularly want to do. But anyway, and let's see. 2 videos make sense. In my Ecamm, I have video as my source for a new scene. I add other videos all the time, so I would be in the same boat as you. Yeah, I think that is. That is something that's going to be potentially, you know, people are going to want. But again, you know, this is literally just been released, so I'm sure that there is lots of scope for things like that, and it's just a case of, well, maybe there's no major limitation from the processing point of view. Maybe it's just that they hadn't thought to allow that. So we'll have to see. So there we go. Hey, Doc, great to see you. I cannot wait to see you at Creator Camp. And yeah, we've got the same. We're in the same boat, obviously. The this is turning into the Ecamm stream, but yeah, it's you lose all the multi-camera stuff that you can do with Ecamm with this. So yeah, we're obviously Ecamm through and through, aren't we? But anyway, let's go on. No problem. Welcome to the relocation stream with Alec and Doc. So wants to move to Thailand in 2 or 3 years or so. Well, it's no better place to be. And let's have a look here. Rich, $384 a year for Ecamm. I'm sticking with Ecamm. No telling what capabilities we'll have then. Yeah, indeed, more things coming through. I mean, even with like Ecamm's recent Ecamm for Zoom integration, so being able to pull guests out of Zoom into Ecamm just as a camera feed, all that sort of stuff is is a great thing as well about that we could do with Ecamm. If you are interested in learning more about Ecamm, then you can get a free trial at the link that is in the description, or I'll just drop a link in the chat as well. And I've just realized this is I've set up my thing slightly wrong. There we go. This should be better. There we go. I thought I'd set that up as a as a YouTube comment, but it's just a text link. Never mind. And I also do have a complete Ecamm Live Masterclass, which is completely free. And it is 170 lessons, 20 modules, but don't worry, you don't have to dive right into it all. There are 20 quick start guides to get you up and running on all the basics of how to use Ecamm for things like interviews, for presentations, for using it with Zoom and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, I launched this a few weeks ago, and I've had literally hundreds of people already sign up. So I think I was up to 700 signups at the last check. So you can get complete free access to it. There is no catch. It's free now, free forever. And it's just because it is kind of like my flagship course, the first one that I created. But now I've got courses on all the other things that go around Ecamm and around video production. And so I use this as a link into all of those other things. And it's just a way to return some of the love that I've received from the Ecamm community as well. So you can find a link to that in the description, and I shall also drop it into the chat as well. It is ecammlivemasterclass.com. The short version, there's a longer version, just dropped in the chat. And I talk all about how to use the RødeCaster Pro 2 with Ecamm in this course as well, because that's sort of my current setup. So just to mention that, I have the RødeCaster Pro 2 here. This is what is my audio, my primary audio interface. I also love the RødeCaster Duo though. I've got one of those. Currently, it's sort of a lighting feature behind me, but that's actually my favorite. It's just that I've been doing some stuff with multiple mics recently, so I switched back into the RødeCaster Pro 2. But actually, the RødeCaster Duo is a fantastic device. Just another quick hello before I move on. Of course, I don't want to skip over Rich because Rich is in the backstage as well, of course. But great to see you here, Orbs. Fantastic to see you. Are you going to CreateCamp this year? If so, I can't wait to catch up with you again. That'd be lovely. Let's see. Some more questions then that I've had as I go through things. Actually, one just before the stream started in our little backstage chat was about, do we still need a computer for streaming with the RødeCaster video? And the fact is, it does have streaming built in. So what you do is you set that up in Rode Central. So going back over to Rode Central here, you've got stream profiles, and this is where you can basically just add a new stream profile. You put in the name as you want it to appear, and then you have the server and the stream key that you can add into that. And then what happens then is on the RødeCaster video, you'll see just down here, you've got here where you can tap, and you can either say go live or record. And if you've got it set to go live, you'll see a list of your different profiles in there, and they just appear there. So whatever you've added into Rode Central will just appear there as a profile. You pick the profile, and then you can just hit the go live button. And so it can stream from here. As I say, the slight limitation of that is if you are wanting to bring in chat and things like that, as I'm doing here, then you can't sort of do that natively, at least. So yeah, there is that. I didn't actually connect the Duo to the RødeCaster video. I will be doing that. You know, the truth of the matter is, I've had this for a month, as I'm sure you have, Doc, and I only took it out of the box on Saturday or Sunday. So basically, I had a quick look at it on Saturday or Sunday. I went through the spec sheet, and there was a sort of information sheet that came with it. So I kind of browsed through that. I specifically don't like to read instructions before I have a first look at something. I always recommend people read the instruction book, as I know you do, Doc, as well. So we do have like an initial sort of overview of all the functions. I actually prefer, when I'm doing these sorts of review type things, is to just take a complete fresh look at it with no prior knowledge of it, and just see how it goes. Because if I find something really complex that I can't figure it out from just taking it out of the box, I think things should be self-explanatory to a certain point. And that's what I found with this. I found it really intuitive. Once, I obviously knew that you've got to have Rode Central and so on. But just going into Rode Central, I mean, it's pretty I want to say idiot proof. It's pretty idiot proof. You know, you go into the RødeCaster video here in Rode Central, and then what have we got? Well, it just shows up in the sidebar of Rode Central. So if I go to it, we've got RødeCaster Pro 2 connected and RødeCaster Video. All right, I guess I click here then. And then what have we got? Okay, Scene Builder. I guess that's for building scenes, which I knew was a feature. Audio Mixer. That's kind of self-explanatory then, I guess. And when you click on those, by the way, those two pop out as separate windows. So you've got this video studio and you've got the mixer down here. And then device configuration. All of these things were kind of familiar from RødeCaster, but it all just sort of made sense to me. You know, the new things that were added in. There wasn't really a lot for me to, you know, scratch my head about here. It's pretty self-explanatory. Same with auto switching. Okay, initially I was like, okay, well, what's that? How does it work? But you go into there and it just tells you very clearly auto switching, link microphones to all camera angles that they appear in, set priorities to influence how frequently camera angles change. That sort of explained it. If you click next, there's this other thing here that explains it in more detail, and you can click to don't show it again. So that kind of explained everything there. And that was just my experience of it. Stream profiles. I think if you don't have one added in, it gives you a little cue here to tell you, you know, what it is. So it was all really intuitive. And then I came into the scene builder, which is, I would say, the first thing that was completely new. The audio mixer looks similar. It doesn't actually look as similar to Rode Central as it does to their what do they call it? The I'm forgetting now. It's the virtual audio mixer that they brought out with the Streamer X. Unify, Rode Unify. It looks more like the Unify design, but again, it's pretty obvious what these things all do. We've got these different mixes here. This is showing me the input in big, bold things. Click on the settings here. This then takes you into all of the audio processing that we're used to on the RødeCaster. I mean, I'm used to it, so I guess somebody completely new would need to know more about this. But that sort of all made sense. So then the next sort of big departure then, and something that was completely new, would be this, which is their scene builder. But it's fairly intuitive. You know, you've got a media library down the side. So I guess that's pretty obvious what that's for, you know, adding in media, and you've got videos, graphics and sounds that you can add in there. And there's a big button to say add media. These buttons here clearly relate to the buttons that you have on the RødeCaster. So there's these buttons here, which are your cameras, these buttons here, which are for scenes and other things. So that's what these buttons relate to. You're just basically selecting what it is you're programming. And then this thing on the right is then where you actually, you know, control the settings of those things, like selecting the input source. But none of this has got too many options to confuse you or anything like that. It's all perfectly logical. So as I say, having taken it out of the box on Saturday, Sunday, having a quick look at things, then when I went into Monday, I actually got sidetracked for half the day on Monday. So I probably spent about 5 hours with it on Monday, and then Tuesday was the day when it was released, basically 11 p.m. my time. I spent from I guess 9 a.m. until 2 p.m. on that day creating. Really, actually, what I was creating then was all of this stuff. It was all of the presentation about it. So it was these slides. So I was creating all of these different slides to be able to show the features, the functionality, and all that sort of stuff. So there again, I probably didn't spend 2 days with the device itself. I was spending 2 days doing all these little fancy animations in Keynote. And then I went and picked the kids up from school. And then Tuesday at 5 p.m., I made the video in well, it was an hour and 10 minutes. So I made the video after that, and then I scheduled it to go out. So I did see the wonderful master himself, Mr. Tom Buck, make another video about it. And I didn't watch any videos, obviously, until mine had gone out because of the embargo. But one of the things that Tom said, I actually disagreed with. He said, this is a really complex device, but don't think you're going to get it and then be creating content with it the next day. You're more likely going to be getting it to create content the next month. I just totally totally disagree with that, honestly. I get that there is complexity to it for sure, but you could totally be getting this and out of the box, plug in a couple of cameras and a microphone, and be creating content within maybe a couple of days if you want to take some more time to really dig into it. So a couple of days, something like that. It's not a month-long learning experience to get up to speed with it. It really just does work out of the box in a very intuitive way that other things don't. So there you go. So there we go. Let's come into here. So so the answer to that then, that long answer again is I will connect the RødeCaster video, as I'm sure you will, to try it all out. You tested it with wireless control. Do you know what? I haven't actually done that yet. I haven't done the wireless connection. It is just wired in with Ethernet. But yeah, I'll be making. I'm sure you will be making a few videos about this as well. You're making a video podcast course. Excellent. Good job. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, I get you. Yeah, so you're in the same boat as me. As we're both exactly the same about these sorts of things. So does it? Oh, I see. I've answered that one, and you've seen that as well. Yeah, it does have audio presets similar to the RødeCaster Pro 2 and RødeCaster Duo. In fact, it's got all the same onboard processing capabilities as the Duo and the Pro 2 as well. So it's got those three sort of, I guess, easy presets that you can use, not presets, adjustments of whatever they call them in Rode terminology, Sparkle, Punch, and something else. I always forget the last one. But yes, you can go in to the advanced settings, and then you've got the high pass filter, which knocks out low tone noises, sound. You've got the de-esser for removing those S sounds from your voice to some extent. Noise gate, which is for basically deciding when you want to allow audio to pass through or not, and usually it doesn't completely close, but think of it as like a gate. So when you're not speaking, then it sort of closes the gate to some extent to limit the amount of audio that's passing through to help reduce sort of background noise. I have my noise gate set that when I stop speaking, it shuts completely, but you could have it so that it just closes partially. But anyway, so they've got the noise gate in there. They've got compressor, which is for sort of evening out the difference between the high volume audio and low volume audio. So you can sort of boost everything up, but then just reduce those high volume levels so that it's not giving such quite such a range to people listening. And then you've got the equalizer, as you asked about, and then the exciter, which consists of the big bottom, which is for adding depth and richness, I guess, to lower tones, and adding clarity and something else to the higher tones. These ones are the ones that, whereas with the de-esser, the noise gate, and the high pass filter, they're all very clearly sort of dynamic processing things that are having a very clear and obvious effect on the audio. The ones for me, which are a little bit more abstract, is the big bottom and the aural exciter. I'm not sure exactly how they are doing what they're doing. So those are a little bit more of a sort of black box type of thing going on there. Next is the panning, for sort of panning from left to right in there. So those are the sort of advanced processing things that you've got in there. I didn't cover this in a huge amount of detail on my full review video, just because that is another video in itself. And I did in fact link to that video at the end of my review video, all about that advanced processing, because essentially it's the same as we've got in the RødeCaster Pro 2 and the RødeCaster Duo. Hello there, great to see you, Bert. Thank you for stopping by. I'm currently using Switcher Studio, wanting to use a better solution for our church, considering an ATEM2 Constellation HD, wondering how RødeCaster Video would be in a church setting. This is exactly the sort of thing that it would be ideal for, in fact, where you just want to have the hardware thing set up. You can have, obviously, multiple cameras plugged in, so 4 HDMI cameras, potentially an additional 2 USB cameras or HDMI via USB capture cards into it. So you've got multiple cameras in there. The other thing that might be of benefit in a church setting in particular is the fact that it does link with the Rode wireless range of microphones. And so you could have those as a couple of your audio channels. You can have obviously hardwired, XLR mic inputs as well, but thinking about the position of the device and the position of who you want to capture from the from the front there, then you could have some of the Rode wireless mics connected. When I say some, you can have two Rode wireless mics connected. Let's be clear about that. And so yeah, that would be a great solution for that. What this I think gives over the ATEM is the simplicity. Let's just have a look at this in a second, because I did see somebody comment in the ATEM Mini users group saying, I can't believe some of the reviewers are talking about this new RødeCaster video and saying that having fewer buttons is a benefit. Well, I put it to you that fewer buttons is a benefit when you've got something that looks like this versus when you look at the ATEM Mini Extreme ISO, which is the one down below. Now, I think that for people who come from a broadcast background where they are used to having all of these controls at their fingertips, and it looks like a broadcast studio that they may have been used to seeing in their TV days or whatever they're coming from, I do actually think that we don't need all of those buttons at our fingertips at any given time. If we are doing a live stream, if we're recording a podcast, if you are broadcasting from your church or place of worship or wherever it is, or your classroom or whatever. And so actually, even on the smaller ATEM Mini just up at the top there, the ATEM Mini ISO, that is, ATEM Mini Pro ISO, I forget the names of them. Even there, all of the different buttons that you've got on there are potentially things that you may be not needing to use just actually during the stream. So one of the things that I love about the RødeCaster video is they have just kind of simplified the user interface to I would say the optimal point almost. It's got everything you need on it without having too many things, but it's not like you've got to go in and out of menus to go and activate different things. So I think that they've done a great job in that respect with not going button crazy, but also not trying to remove them all completely either. So yeah, it is a great solution for exactly what you're talking about there, because of get it all set up, have your mics going into it, and then use it for camera switching. And it then basically becomes, and by the way, you've got a monitor output as well. So you can have just a screen plugged into it. So the monitor out is going to look something like this. This, by the way, is in the mode where when you press a button, it's just switching between those cameras directly. But the other mode that you can have, though, is if I go into the device configuration, and I'll just show you this. You can have, if you go into the video section in Rode Central and go into switching, instead of this instant switching mode, you can switch to studio mode. And when you do that, what you see then is in the grid view output, you see then two camera feeds. And basically, you've got one over here, which is the sort of the next scene that's coming up. So you can select a different camera in there, but the live view is the one that is shown over on this side. And then you have the button on the RødeCaster, which is this button here, cut and auto. So auto is going to apply a transition, and the transition is set in here. So you've got either a fade, dip, wipe. So let's just put it on wipe, for example. Now what you'll see is if I go back now to the main RødeCaster output, so this is now the RødeCaster, when I press that auto button, you'll see it's going to wipe to that other camera angle. So that is the other way that you can use this. So if we go to back over to this, wherever it was, this one, like in your church setting, they would have access to see all of the different cameras here. So they would see all the different cameras connected. If you had set up scenes, obviously, then they've got scenes up along the top there, and then they can see which scene is queued up next. So they could queue up maybe this scene and then cut to it, and then they could queue up this other one and transition to it that way. So you can have that full visibility. So yes, from an ease of use point of view, it's going to be great for that if you want a hardware switcher. So let's have a little look now where we're up to. So Marine X. I agree with that. My Mix Pre 3 has been in studio for 2 years and started using it immediately, but I'm still learning it. Yeah. I'm maybe missing the context. This always happens with me. There's a moment where my brain stops and I read something and I realize I've not quite got the context of it. But you're talking about the Mix 3 Pre as well. There we go. Without using third-party software, i.e. Ecamm, Zoom, or Riverside, how can you bring guests onto your stream once you build a scene on the device? So that's something that is not there quite just yet. So with the scene, you could bring them in if you've got them on. You would need it on a computer basically, because you've got to bring out a camera feed from somewhere or other. Now you could do it in Zoom, where you have your in Zoom you've got 2 windows that you can have. So you could have an HDMI cable coming out of your computer, and that would effectively appear to your computer as the second monitor. And then what you could do in Zoom is use the dual monitor setup, and you pin your guest to that second monitor, to that second window, I should say, in Zoom. And so then you are going to be looking at your computer, maybe the camera, maybe you've got a teleprompter set up like I have here. So then you can be still looking at the person yourself in the main Zoom window, but that second Zoom window is where you've pinned that guest, and so then that feed is the one that you're taking into the RødeCaster video, and so they're then appearing in that in that as well. Or of course you could just plug your RødeCaster video HDMI output A or B into your teleprompter. That would be the most sensible way to do it, so that then you're seeing your RødeCaster video output in your screen. So that's basically what I'm doing here effectively, is if I just switch over to a different camera here, whoops, this one, then, no, it is this one. What you see here is I'm looking into my my teleprompter. So that is there's a screen here which is flat. That's my laptop, but here there's a screen which is flat, and then I'm looking through this glass into the camera. The camera's behind there, but as you can see, I'm actually seeing basically what you're seeing in there as well. Now that's for me is happening because this is effectively I've got my Ecamm Live output in that screen, but you could do that with one of those HDMI outputs, A or B, from the RødeCaster video, and you can select in there what it is you want to go to that. So let's just have a look at how to do that then, because if you go up to here in the video section in Rode Central, go to the HDMI output, and here you've got HDMI A and B. These are the 2 outputs, and you can choose there what you want to send out. So either you can send out the preview, which is coming back to that multi-view, where you've got these 2 views. This one is what's called the live view. That's what's actually going out, and this one is the preview, as in what's queued up. And then when you press the auto button or the cut button, then it's going to switch back and forth between those 2. But those are the 2 sort of views there that we're talking about. So in Rode Central then, those are those 2, choosing between either preview or program, and then the other option you've got is that multi-view. So it may well be that if you've got a teleprompter, you could have that set up so that you send the program view out from one of these 2 HDMIs into the teleprompter, and then you'd be doing exactly what I'm doing now, which is you're recording, live streaming, filming, whatever, but you're seeing the output in your teleprompter, which is actually really helpful, because it means that you're kind of also checking what's going out. So like I can see what's going out. I know if I'm in the right scene or the wrong scene or the right camera or wrong camera or whatever, because I can just see it in front of me. So yes, to answer your question though, you would need to have like if you were bringing a guest in from Zoom, obviously it would need to be running in Zoom anyway. So you'd need to have Zoom running, but you wouldn't necessarily need a third-party piece of software like Ecamm just to bring it into RødeCaster. You could do that thing that I just said, which is bring it out over HDMI. Oh, hey, Tristan from Rode. Great to see you here. Thank you very much. What's my number 1 feature request? I've mentioned a few of them actually. Video pass-through on those things that I was just talking about would be really, really high on my list. So let's just go back to that. If in here, as well as the preview, program, and multi-view, we also just had the option to select one of those other HDMI feeds, like HDMI 1, 2, 3, or 4. That would be amazing, because that would enable us to then do screen sharing. I mean, the screen sharing that I'm doing right now is technically possible in with the RødeCaster video, because I could use an HDMI splitter to split my monitor out into these, so it's coming into the RødeCaster video on one of the HDMIs and also going out to my physical monitor. But to have a pass-through would be great, because then I could just take my computer monitor out into the video and then out of the HDMI A or B and into my actual monitor, so that then I'm capturing it, but I'm also seeing it. I know that you know what video capture is. I'm kind of explaining it for other people. So that would be my number one. If you want my number two, in fact, this was maybe a joint number one, is those isolated video feeds over USB into the computer, so that we've got them all, because then the RødeCaster video would basically act as an amazing multi-camera capture device, as well as a switcher. So for people who use software solutions such as Ecamm or OBS, then you would have an all-in-one multi-camera capture device and super powered RødeCaster audio interface as well, all in one. So I know you asked for one, but those are two. I'm going to be emailing you on Monday with a whole list of others, by the way, so prepare for that. It's an awesome device. Let's have a little look. The other thing would be for the version 2 iteration. Whilst you're asking for requests, the other thing would then be to imagine this. I'm sure you probably have imagined that, but imagine this just kind of like at the bottom of here, just a little strip at the bottom of the RødeCaster Pro 2 with the switching options. That's a little dream I had just the other day. Let's just come over to here. And bottom line, do we still need the RødeCaster Pro 2 if we purchase the RødeCaster video? Absolutely not. No, unless you are really totally fixed on the virtual fade. The physical faders. So by that I mean, obviously the RødeCaster Pro 2 has got 9 channels and there's 6 physical faders, but then there are 3 virtual faders that you can adjust with the little dial here. So if you've been used to that, or you've tried that, if I tap on one of these virtual devices here, do it this way, in fact, then I can adjust like the level of this particular fader with this rotary dial. Well, basically all of the faders work in that way on the RødeCaster video. So on the RødeCaster video, if I just come over to here, you can see that here we've got these. And by the way, I've talked about the software being intuitive. This menu's really intuitive as well. I did think when I saw it first, I thought, oh, that's going to be a bit small. Again, coming from the RødeCaster Pro 2 and RødeCaster Duo screens, which are significantly larger. I did wonder if that was going to be a bit on the small side and how functional it would be. But actually, it works really well. It's really obvious and intuitive. So there's basically, you've got the recording thing just up at the top here. Then you've got this one here, which is for the crossfade timing, and then you've just got a settings tab here, and then an audio tab here. So I will go into the audio tab, because there, what you've then got is, you can see we've got a little sort of virtual fader there, and all I do is just rotate. Whoop, if I select it first, sorry, it's really intuitive, and then I go and screw up the demo. That's always the way, isn't it? But if I tap that and that goes green, now we're adjusting the fader level for that microphone, so we can adjust that. And as I mentioned, I did also have this thought that, we're going to miss the physical faders. But generally, I'm sort of setting these things up in advance, and then I'm not sort of adjusting them live during the live stream or the recording or whatever. It is a kind of thing that you set up and then either rarely change anyway if you're in the same scenario every time, or it's something that is you change before, during setup rather than actually live. But in any case, you've got that there, which is the virtual fader there. And then if you press this button again, you can basically just cycle through all of the different levels that you've got. And by the way, if you've got this on an output as well, going out to a monitor where you're using that grid view, then notice just here how this one here is highlighted, and that's representing the one that I've got selected on the dial. So you can actually sort of do this. If I just use the rotary encoder, you can see up here the top-down shot. So you can see there. In fact, let's make that a little bit clearer. It's a bit bigger there, isn't it? So you can see here the rotary encoder. If I go back into that, it's showing you on the output here which of those faders you've got selected. So you could actually be using the rotary encoder here, but then just looking at the output, as you can see on the display as well, and then going through and setting all of those up like that. Back onto the device though, if you have a look at that screen again, then as well as the mic setting, the level and things like that, you also then have these settings for those different processing. Now, the one thing you can't do, I think, on this is actually that advanced audio processing. So because of this one, I had it set up with the advanced processing for compressor and things like that. You can't make the fine adjustments to that on here. However, if you've got one selected that has just those three different things, why do I keep blanking on the name of them? Let me just get the name for you so that I get this right. Depth, sparkle, and punch. There we go. Those three things are represented on here. So you can actually do those. And I think the majority of people probably use those presets because they're just so easy to use. So you can certainly change all of those on there. So yeah, that is that. If you go into settings, you can also change the microphone type, whether it's condenser, dynamic, or if it's using it as an instrument or line in. This would also be on the wireless, how you get into pairing. So you can just pair it from here. And then you can also link those two XLR inputs to make them a stereo pair as well, if you want. But all super intuitive. The thing about it is, one of the things that I find has let down a load of these other switches, and certainly ones that I've tried, is unintuitive menus, or menus that are too deep and you've got to be going like in 3 or 4 different levels to get to what you want to do. This is only really ever, I guess, sort of 2 levels deep. You go into audio or video, and then you're selecting the mic you want, and then you got to settings, come back out, or go into that. You're only ever really 2 levels in, and so you can't really ever get lost in it, which is great. You can add or remove channels from here, and I mentioned at the top that there are 9 virtual channels that you've got to use here, but there are, what did I count? I think 16 options. Bear in mind that you can actually use not just the USB inputs, but there's also all the HDMI. You can pass audio over HDMI as well. So you can choose whichever 9 you want, but there's, as I say, 16 to choose from, to my reckoning. So yeah, really intuitive. I forget the original question that led me onto that. That's it. I do have a bit of going off down rabbit holes. The bottom line: do we still need the RødeCaster Pro 2 if we purchase this? No, it is. It includes that in the box, basically in its form factor. And has all of the same capabilities in terms of audio routing. I will say there is one another question I had on my list that's kind of related to this, which could be a potential thing, which is that somebody asked, can we assign mute to the these buttons on the device itself? So can you program these to be mute buttons in the same way that you've got the mute buttons at the bottom of the RødeCaster? I guess I could see why somebody would want to have, an easy to hand mute button there, and that, as far as I know, is not possible at the moment. These buttons are either for your different scenes that you can create, or they're for activating overlays. So if I tap on this one, now it's got my overlays queued up, and if I press on a button, it will show, if I just put this out here, it will pop up an overlay like that, so like a lower third or something. If I just cut to this one, so that's how I'm activating that, is by pressing that button on the on there. And the other one then that you can have is for it to play audio, and although I've got it technically some of that's queued up, I'm not sort of fixed up to pass that through just at the moment, but yeah, that's this other button. So when you've got this button selected at the top, this is for all of your media, video and audio. And then if you've got this one selected, you've got these 7 options then for those graphic overlays. And then when neither of those are selected, this is for your scenes. But yeah, at the moment, it's not for muting. Somebody else asked, have we got MIDI capability? Because there is MIDI capability in the RødeCaster so that you can control MIDI devices on your computer from that. And that's something else that I don't think is currently available in here as well. Let me just double check that. I'm pretty sure it's not. I didn't see it in the in Rode Central or in the documentation, so I'm guessing it's not. So that would be another thing, though, is if you are using MIDI for anything, then to control things, then that's not currently possible as well. I wonder whether the two-way thing works, though. Maybe the return feed works. But anyway, I'll dig into that in a bit more detail. But yeah, it could totally replace the RødeCaster. Let's have a look where we're up to. And there's me giving a 20-minute response, and Doc is just given the concise answer there. No, but you can connect them together as well if you like the tactile nature of faders. That's the concise answer. Yeah, so Doc was. We're very similar, me and Doc. Yeah, so he was up and running in 20 minutes with it. It is, I found I took it out of the box, I intuitively found my way around it, and it just all made total sense. So do you find the preview output over HDMI to be a little bit too much latency compared to, say, ATEM Extreme? I'm used to seeing myself and reacting to videos on a big screen. I'm currently testing the RødeCaster video. Do I notice that? Let me have a look at that, because I can't say that I have noticed that in particular. Let me just put this out here. So this is the main feed. Let's see, is that any more? Is that any more than this one? I guess perhaps it is a little bit behind, but that might be by virtue of the fact that. Let's think about this. So let me explain what I'm doing to make this video, shall I? Because I am using Ecamm Live to do all of my camera switching in order to be able to demo all of the things, like all the different, Rode apps and so on. So what I'm actually doing is I've got my video coming out from my camera as HDMI. It's going through a splitter, an HDMI splitter, and then it's going. One of those is going into a capture card, which is going into my computer. That's what you're seeing right now. That is then also going into the RødeCaster video as a direct HDMI in through that splitter. Now, when I'm doing this thing now of actually showing you what's coming out of the RødeCaster video, it's then coming from the RødeCaster video as USB, basically as the RødeCaster video being a capture device into the computer. So actually what I need to do is I need to do a proper test of this without all these multiple capture devices, because effectively every one of those is adding a little bit more latency. So just because of my personal setup here for this demo, I'm inherently introducing unnecessary latency, if that makes sense, because I'm going through all these different things. So what I need to do is I need to actually hook a monitor directly up to it. I have done that before, but for the purposes of the demo, it made sense to just have this. I mean, what you're seeing now, again, I'm taking the HDMI feed out of HDMI A or B, and then I'm presenting it as multi-view. But even this, I'm then taking into my computer through a capture device. So that's also introducing a little bit of extra latency in there, just so that I can easily share this with you using Ecamm to switch between different scenes, if that makes sense. So I haven't actually noticed what you're saying, but I will test that, because I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'll take your word for it. If you're experiencing that, though, I will just need to plug a monitor in and actually do the test myself. I guess this is actually a response to Tristan's question, which was, where was it? Tristan's question was, what's your number one feature request? And I guess this is what Ernie was responding to. 4K. So there we go. Hey, Chantel, great to see you here. Hope you are well. Hope you had a great time in Vid Summit as well. I saw you on your travels, so hope you had a great trip. Marine X, I think the RødeCaster still allows a producer to ride the fader for a guest who, well, that's it. Yeah, there is. I say that I rarely adjust the faders, but there is me, you know, little Billy old no mates here with me alone in my studio, so I'm not having to manage multiple people. So yeah, I get why the fader thing would be more of a requirement for some people. So yeah, that is, I guess, why that would be useful. There. Oh, I see what you're saying for recording as well. So unless it's got the 32-bit float in the recording, then you could end up with an issue where if you weren't on those faders all the time to manage that, if indeed you had an unruly guest, then yeah, you would need to be conscious about that. And we're on the same page as always, Doc. For the 4K people, realize 4K version of this device would be $5,000 or more. Real-time processing, 6 streams for 4K would require a much stronger processor and beefier I/O and power. Yeah, there's always going to be that you know, the decision that has to be made. The capabilities there with the Streamer X for 4K. So you would think, well, why don't they just put 6 4K feeds into the RødeCaster video? But yeah, I totally get the trade-off. It's not that simple. It's a bit like people in Ecamm saying, can't we have isolated video feeds on all of our cameras coming in at 4K? And it's the exact same problem. They're not sort of thinking about the processing involved in it. So yeah, I totally get the decision as well. But there you go. And yeah, we certainly can dream and ask, can't we? It never hurts to ask. I've always felt that it never hurts to ask. It turns out that's actually wrong. There are many times when you shouldn't ask. But anyway, there you go. If I bring in reaction videos via an HDMI but use audio offset to match cameras to my mics, am I correct that now videos will be out of sync? Let me think about that. If you bring in reaction videos via an HDMI, let me think about that, because the offset is a general one, but then do you know, I've got to think about that, because if you're bringing the audio in over that HDMI, then that would be in sync with that. However, I get what you're saying, because the you've got where is it? You've got the audio delay here, but the audio delay is on all audio versus all video. I guess the thing with that would be if you were bringing your audio, because usually the delay is the audio delay is to bring it back into sync with the video, because the video is there's latency introduced by the capture of the video. So yeah, if you've got your, like in Ecamm, for example, I've got whatever it is, 3 frames of delay in my audio, so that it's in sync with the video that's coming in. So I would think that if you're bringing your audio, oh, and I see you're just saying you're bringing your audio in via USB stereo. So because you're bringing your actual video in would be coming over HDMI, that would then, I guess, have the same sort of delay as you've got with your cameras. So then if you're bringing your audio in over USB, then that should bring it back into sync, I would think. I might be wrong about this, and the preciseness of it is something that I might not be quite as accurate on as some people, so I'm not entirely sure about this. But my thought is, now that I'm understanding it a bit more, is if you've got your video capture coming in over HDMI and you've got your video feed coming in from you know, the playback of your reaction video or whatever, then they're all going to have the same delay introduced to them, your camera and that, I would imagine, because it's coming over that HDMI. But then your microphone audio and USB audio won't have that same latency. And so introducing a delay to all of the audio should, I would think, bring everything more or less back into sync. However, I'm not going to say it's going to do it exactly, because I know that some people are more fussy is not the right word, but over, you know, milliseconds here and there. So I don't know, but I would think that it would correct it in the way that you're expecting. Is my assumption there. I wish audio inputs could have separate delays. I wish that as well, actually, for the RødeCaster. Yes, I agree entirely on that. It would be good to have an individual delay on individual audio sources, because they are not necessarily always the same. Like, for example, I do things with Zoom. Just going back to that, I do things with Zoom where I've got Zoom audio coming in, and Ecamm for Zoom is great because I can bring in the video feeds for people from that. But then I've got the audio coming in from Ecamm for Zoom. Sorry, from Zoom into the RødeCaster, and I'm doing all the audio mixing myself. Even though technically Ecamm can handle all of that, I prefer to do it in the RødeCaster, because it gives me more fine control over who is heard and when they're heard and all of that kind of stuff. And the thing about that is their audio is often more delayed than my microphone inherently. So yeah, I would also love that if we could have the individual audio delay on a channel by channel basis. Hey, Vicky, great to see you. By the way, how is your studio going? I definitely need to see some updates, because I forget the last picture I saw of it was where you had stripped it all out and we're starting with almost a blank canvas. So it'd be great to see some pictures if you get a chance to drop any in Discord. I'd love to have a look at that. So will streaming software be in jeopardy of being obsolete? I honestly think there's a place for both of them, because there are people who like the fact that you've just got a device that sits on your desk with, you're just pressing a few buttons to switch, and then there are the people that are a little bit more like me, who like to just totally geek out and do things that maybe a little bit more over the top than they necessarily need to be. But then there'll be other people who don't want to have an additional device and are like the streaming. The software streaming solution, because of the fact that it doesn't require a piece of hardware. And whilst I think it's actually great value for what it is at $1,200, it's still $1,200 that people may well not be able to go for that. So there's always pros and cons to each one. Again, software solutions like Ecamm. I'm an Ecamm fanboy. I'm a Rode fanboy as well. But the thing about Ecamm is it is going to add, processor constraints to your computer, or be limited by processor constraints. Whereas an external device like this is going to be, has got a place. So I actually think they've both got a place. As I say, one of the those feature requests that I mentioned earlier, though, was if we've got multi-camera outputs from the RødeCaster video into the computer, and we've got the pass-through as well, it would actually make a really great companion. So this combined with software would then make the ultimate, as I say, capture an audio device to go along with something like Ecamm or OBS or whatever. And I think that would be a great pairing there. So yeah, I don't think either are going to make either obsolete. They're different things for different purposes to a certain point. Hey Rob, great to see you as always. So yeah, that's the having to take the audio from reaction source separately. Yeah, so I think that's what he is doing actually, and you probably the same as me got to that after he'd mentioned it. But yeah, so he's got his video coming in over HDMI, but then audio is coming in over USB. So yeah, it'd just be a case of having it on a dedicated channel, I guess. Indeed, 4K is more than 4 times data. Indeed, it is. That's true. So the YoloBox Ultra. Now, I've not tested the YoloBox Ultra. I've got the YOLO Live InStream, which was their vertical video device. The YoloBox is an interesting one actually, because it's basically built on Android, is effectively what it is. Let me just show you this because it is interesting. Let's get this up. Where is it? And that, I believe, it has 8 inputs, and it is this one. And it also has an integrated screen, which is interesting. It has got some limitations itself, though, but let's have a look at it. Where are we? This one. So let's have a look. The YOLO Ultra. Oh, beg your pardon. It's not 8. What am I talking about? the YoloBox Ultra is 4 HDMI inputs. They are 4K. I don't think it does isolated video recording. I might be wrong about that. The other thing about it is, I mean, it is a nice device. The other one's just a bit out of reach at the moment, but the InStream is a really nice device, really well made. And yeah, you've got 4 HDMI inputs. It's got a pass-through, so you can put it out to an external monitor as well. And it's got a built-in screen, which is kind of a nice feature. It's built on Android. So basically, what you do is you're streaming within the apps. So you're streaming to Instagram from the Instagram app, for example, which is actually on the device. So you open up Instagram, it looks like an Android screen. Open up Instagram and click the Go Live button. And for a long time, this is how you couldn't stream to Instagram Live unless you were using the app previously. This was a great sort of workaround for it, because from Instagram's point of view, you were just using an Android device and streaming from that. So that's something that this has, which is you basically just stream to anything that has got an Android app effectively. What it doesn't have, of course, is all of the onboard audio. so you still do have to have, it's got a line in and it's got a mic in. But yeah, the real power of the RødeCaster Video for me is the fact that it is genuinely an all-in-one solution, where it's got all the audio, it's got all of the video stuff, and you can set the scenes up in Rode Central. You can set some basic scenes up on the device itself, by the way, for the RødeCaster Video, but obviously in Rode Central is the best place to do that. But yeah, so the YoloBox is really interesting as well. And as I say, does do 4K. But you're not getting the isolated video, and you're also not getting audio. So you would have to bring your own audio to it. That's when I tested the InStream, the vertical version of it, or vertical product that they've got. I used the RødeCaster Streamer X as the audio input for that, to be able to get my XLR mic in, and also you can plug in your HDMI directly into that one as well. But yeah, interesting device. That it would be interesting to check out the Ultra and see how that sort of compares. Where are we up to? Let's have a look. Oh, yes. So this is what I always do. I go down my list of questions or comments and I read them, and then I realize it's either been answered or you've said the same thing later. So yeah, indeed, audio controls are way less featured on the YoloBox, as in it's just got a line in basically. So there is, no, that I tell a lie. There's a line in. There is some changes you can make to the audio, but yeah, it's nothing on this. Okie dokie, Jeff. Sorry, Jeff's just speaking in my ear from the backstage. So I didn't realize that if you're saying that, the YoloBox is 4K, but only one feed can be 4K at a time. Oh, that's a bit sneaky, isn't it? It's a bit sneaky to advertise that they got 4 inputs, but only one can actually be 4K at a time. Never mind. That's true, actually. It is easier to pack, isn't it, for Creator-Cam? Yeah, it's than a RødeCaster Pro 2 or a Duo. The form factor of this does feel more like, you could just sort of slot it into the side of your your bag or whatever, as opposed to the Duo, which is still a really small, compact thing. But yeah, like this is smaller footprint than half of my laptop. It's not quite as wide as the laptop. So yeah, sticking that on the top with a couple of other bags, my tech case and things like that. It is a very portable device. Let's have a look. So exactly, the device, it can't show these comments. Oh, I see. So yeah, you're saying, of course, the YoloBox can show comments. I'll have to check out your review. Your review was pretty scathing of them. I'll be interested to check that out. Bicky Studio is still coming together. Just bought an Argosy desk. Excellent. I look forward to the pictures. There's also the RGB Link Mini MX. It's 4K and has audio mixer. I'll be interested to have a look at that. I've got a couple of switches, honestly, that yeah, I've just not I've not made videos about them because they just weren't compelling to me, honestly. This is the one that I was thinking of. So I've just been to their website, the YoloBox Extreme. I see. So that's the one that I was in my head. So where is it here? This is the YoloBox Ultra, but not listed on here is the YoloBox Extreme, which is the one that I saw just a few days ago. And that is, as you're saying, that is 8 feeds. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that works. That's why you're not using it. Prefer Ecamm and Camlink. Yeah. You've got the Ultra, but you're still preferring Ecamm. I mean, if you're on a Mac and you're then there's something that Ecamm has, some special sauce. I use my RødeCaster video in concert with my Decklink Quad 4K capture for inputs, and use the RødeCaster video to get secondary Mac, iPad, and iPhone via HDMI. Yep. Yeah, the Decklink Quad 4K. So that's that device from Blackmagic that it's effectively a card, so you need the enclosure for it, and that takes 4 4K inputs, and then you have one Thunderbolt cable that connects to your computer, and that then presents 4 4K feeds to your computer as individual sources, so that we can use those in Ecamm. Now that's why part of me thinks that I don't know if it's possible with the RødeCaster video to actually, with a future update, to be able to send in those 4 different feeds into the computer as individual camera feeds. That's what I would just love. I would absolutely love that. That might actually be my top request. But the HDMI pass-through, I think they're both required from my side. But yep. So isolated video on the Ultra is now possible with the 1.4 update, apparently. Oh, that's useful. USB, NDI, etc. as well. Right, for that. That would be another thing, actually, for the RødeCaster video, would be ability to receive NDI video sources. So, for example, this camera here that you're looking at, this is actually... it's actually this camera here, which is the Nearstream, and it's completely wireless. I've just put it on this Ulanzi tripod, so it's a weird camera angle. I don't normally get this camera angle on my desk, but for the purposes of this, I've just got this camera, and it's NDI, and that's how I'm getting that into Ecamm, is just a complete wireless camera. And for church settings and things like that, or events or whatever, then I've got to get my angle all set up again now. I've screwed things up. Yeah, as a camera source, and with things like the OBSBot, for example, the OBSBot Tail Air, that's what this camera is behind me. This one over here, there, that is one of the OBSBot PTZ cameras, and that's coming into Ecamm over NDI as well. So ability to capture NDI video sources would also be on my feature request list that I'll be sending over shortly. So yeah, that would be useful as well. Indeed, everyone is, as Doc says. Let me just get my correct scene now that I'm being proper about this. Indeed, there's lots of switches now. The 8M has got like a heritage, hasn't it, from broadcast with all the other things that Blackmagic do, and so I can understand why they are the current sort of dominant sort of player in the market because of that. There is then the YOLO, but I will say with that, I think that they bring a lot of broadcast baggage with them that maybe people like me and regular consumers aren't interested in. So I refer you again to all of the buttons on there. We just don't need all of those buttons to our fingertips at all times, I will say. So yeah, I think that Blackmagic have bought that broadcast baggage with them. And then there is YOLO, which I do think is a standout that's doing something different. So they have got obviously their all-in-one streaming devices built on Android, which do this job of what they do, and so they're interesting devices for that. But then to come to your point, Doc, there are an awful lot of other people making camera switches, and those are the ones that I've been sent for review, and I've just parked on a shelf after trying them for a little bit because there's none of them that feel compelling in terms of the software. And I commented on I commented on my own post. Somebody said about the RødeCaster video looks like a great product, and I said I really feel like they've come in as a best-in-class product right out of the gate, because for what it is, a hardware switcher, and for the ease of use and setting up the scenes, it has just completely replaced for me the others that are in this market at the moment in terms of the usability and all of that. So that's just my opinion. But there are lots of other switches, and I've got a few to hand, but I probably won't name and shame them on here actually, because they're just not compelling to me. Feeding an NDI feed from Presenter for graphics with an alpha channel would be huge indeed. Anything, and as I say, especially with just coming back to your point, Doc, everyone is making switches now. I tell you what everyone else is making as well is really high quality cameras. I mean, this camera in particular, the Nearstream, I did a review of this recently. I can take it off here. This is quite a phenomenal camera because you don't really get a judge of the size of it. That's how big it is compared to a Streamer X. It's really quite a beefy camera, but this one has got a 40 times zoom. Now that's a little bit much for my studio, obviously, but actually for live events, to be able to zoom in like that, and it's a, let me get this right, it's a 10 times optical zoom. Hence the length of it. I mean, if you look down into the lens of it, it's got a really, you can just see the glass in here is just huge. It's got a 10 times optical zoom and then a 4 times digital zoom. So that gives you the 40. I nearly did 10 times 4 is 50 then, didn't I? It gives you the 40 times zoom. But for events, having these positioned around the place is great. It does have HDMI out, by the way, so you can take out, I beg your pardon, it has a USB out, but you can convert that. To be able to have these wirelessly and use them like that would be great. So this is a bit zoomed in now because I specifically zoomed in. And of course it's not focusing now, is it? There you go. let me put it back in and just ignore that. But this is a really interesting camera. Then there are of course all of the OBSBot range of cameras, OBSBot Tail Air, the OBSBot Tiny 2 as well. These different cameras that we've got, that the OBSBot Tail Air being another NDI camera, it would be interesting to see that capability into it as into the RødeCaster video as well. Let's have a look. Sorry, I just tuned in. Are you streaming and encoding using RødeCaster video directly without anything else? I'm not actually. I'm using the I'm using Ecamm Live for the stream because I will do a full stream just purely RødeCaster video. The reason why I'm using Ecamm is because I want to show you all of the software. So I've got scenes set up in Ecamm Live that are sharing things like this with my different scenes here. And so some of the things that you're seeing, like rounded corners on the camera, drop shadows and stuff like that, that's actually an Ecamm thing. If I go to this scene, this now is RødeCaster video, but I can create scenes in RødeCaster video. So this is a RødeCaster video scene. I've got an animated video background going on. Obviously, I wouldn't have a scene with 2 of me on it, but this was just to show the sorts of things that you can set up. Here's another one. And so actually, I can get a very similar look to what I use in Ecamm with the RødeCaster video. So this is entirely RødeCaster video. I'm technically I'm feeding it into the computer through Ecamm for the stream, but this is the actual output. And if I had gone live from the RødeCaster video, this right now is what you would be seeing. And you can create the scenes in RødeCaster video like this with multiple cameras. And let's just go and see just how easy this is to do, because I talked about that at length in the full video, but this is just to show you how easy it is to create these scenes. You've basically got these 7 scene slots available. So if I click on this one, so this is going to make a new scene for me, and I can choose either from one of the templates here, and they've got these various different templates with some sort of basic picture-in-picture, with the picture at one of the corners. You've got these ones with like cameras side by side, or 2x2, 2 in sort of 16:9 format side by side, 3 in sort of more vertical format, and then you've got that grid of 4 like that. And then you've got these different ones here, so you can see for yourself the different layouts. But really, you don't need to use these custom ones, these template ones. You can just click on custom. And what that then gives you is over here, you've got this, where you've got this slot, and this is this large slot here. So let me just drop a camera into that to begin with. So to do that, I'm just going to select this option here, and then select from the inputs. Of course, it's disappearing off the screen, so you can't see it. Let me try that again. I'll put this as camera, let's say 3. So now you can see camera 3 happens to be my sort of top-down camera. And then for this camera, I can select this one, and I'll just select camera 1. But the thing that is makes this just stand out compared to any of the other switches is just this ease of which you can just sort of easily move things around. Click onto camera 3 here. I can move this one around, put it wherever I want. If I want to crop into this as well, I can also just grab this corner, this side here, and you can see I'm cropping in. So I could just make a nice little scene up that's basically just me and the RødeCaster video like that, crop into it. If you've ever tried to do any of this in the ATEM, you'll know what an absolute pain it is. And then let's resize it. So now we've got a nice shot like that. And then maybe I could resize my own camera, put it something like this. Basically putting it back to where it was, aren't I? More or less. There we go. And then you can add a border to it. So if we add a border and then assign the color. So now we've got a border, and then I can do that thing where I had the video in the background. You could just have a static image in the background. I just happen to have a video in the background, but it's easy to do in here as well, because we can just go to media and drag and drop media. Now that video I've got is here. I'm just going to drag and drop that over onto there. And so now we've got that. I've just happened to have put it over the top of everything. So let me move that back down to the bottom. And now, just like that, if I go to the actual RødeCaster output now, then here you can see, if I switch to that scene, whoops, I've not switched to it, that's why. Oh yeah, there we go. It is. I have totally switched to it. So that now is what you're seeing, and I can easily just go and edit those elements as well. So if I want to just crop that in a little bit more, I can crop that in. This is just going to get published in a minute once I've finished doing that. And then if I was to switch back here, there we go. So I've just cropped in a little bit more to it. So you see how quickly you can build scenes. The only thing that's sort of different there compared to the ones that I have in Ecamm is that there's no rounded corners on those overlays. You're a little bit more limited in terms of the borders you can put. You can basically put what color you want and the thickness of it. But there's a few more options, I guess, with Ecamm. And then I've also, in going back to this, is now I'm going to switch back to Ecamm. I've got like a slight drop shadow on it, so that's something else. But honestly, I don't know if that's an essential thing. Really, is it? So to go to your question. Not the majority of this stream has been me using Ecamm to show elements of the RødeCaster video. Like this is the RødeCaster video application, sort of the scene builder, I should say, in RødeCaster, Rode Central. This is the audio interface. So these scenes are in Ecamm itself. Another little feature that was in Ecamm was you can see there's a slight perspective on the cameras. So that's also something that's not currently possible. But you can build things like this really simply and really quickly with the RødeCaster video, which is great. That's why I do feel it's kind of like best in class for this type of device for sure. They've refined everyone's products into one smooth piece. That's exactly what they've done. Yeah, they've it's the, I think it's the standard of beat now for sure. And yes, Doc likes the fact that Rode avoided NDI. Yeah, there's a it's been a long time, but there was always a common NDI question that used to come up, wasn't there, Doc? I couldn't get the near stream to connect via UVC. Need to try again. One thing that could be is if you had been using it on NDI, because I forgot this, you have to go into the near stream app on the iPad or whatever you're using to control it with and switch the NDI off. So I don't know whether that is the case with you or not, but I did that. I actually did plug it in over USB, and then I thought, oh, why isn't it working? And then I thought, oh, it's because I've got it set to NDI mode. With the near stream camera, you've got to choose one or the other. Maybe that's not the case with you, but it's worth mentioning just in case it is. The green screen key, by the way, I'm not sure exactly what a flying key is. So I don't know about that. I'd have to check because I don't actually know what that terminology means. But it does have a green screen key ability, and the way that works is over here. So apologies if I'm not answering your question, and do enlighten me as to what a flying key is. But in the video section here, if I click onto one of these cameras, you can see the key there, and you can toggle on the chroma key. You can choose whether it's blue, or obviously you can see the effect. I've got blue in the background there. I am going to make a whole video all about the green screen capabilities, but actually have a green screen up to do it properly. So I'll make a whole sort of green screen with RødeCaster video. But in here you've got just simply choosing green or black. I'm guessing if I just popped up my Elgato pop-up green screen, the green would do a great job in general. But by the way, the thing that lets green screen's got a really bad reputation among a lot of people, but that's because they've seen it done so badly in the past that that's the problem. And Zoom doesn't do it any favors by having Zoom virtual backgrounds, which even if you use a green screen with Zoom and tell it you're using a green screen, the green screen keying ability of Zoom is absolutely terrible. Unlike Ecamm, which does a really great job of the key, and I'm sure this will too. But you will. I haven't tested it though, so let me reserve judgment for that. But here you've got these advanced options that you can use to dial in various different aspects of it as well, in the same way that you can dial in those things with Ecamm as well. Well, this is actually a little bit more fine-grained than that, in fact. So I will do a full video all about green screen. But once again, do let me know what a flying key is, because I'm not entirely sure about that. Oh, that does remind me, though. I did get one question, which was, can the green screen key be applied independently to different things? And so, yes, the answer is you can apply it separately to different things. And then also the question was, can we apply a different background to different cameras, or is it like one background globally for all cameras? The answer is yes, you can go in and change each individual camera, whether or not you want the green screen on or off, or if indeed it's a blue screen. And then also you can set the background that you want for each one. So either transparent, which means that, if I'd got a green screen behind me, transparent would mean there would just be a cutout of me over the top of whatever content I'm in front of, or you can select a background, and that's just a case of adding in your media and adding the background from there. I haven't tried this. I'm assuming that I could potentially add a video background, but I might be wrong about that. I will reserve that until I've actually done the video. So there we go. So does 4K capabilities in Rode require more expensive chips but don't really involve engineering difficulties stopping 4K? It will be around Yeah, well, actually, let me step back before I just give a definitive answer on this. I don't know whether technically there is the possibility that it could be something that's opened up in future, or if it's a permanent limitation now of they've gone with 4K over 1080. I know that certain things like video routing and stuff like that is being done in the with the CPU and the architecture of it. So things like that, I would imagine, for like video routing, like when I'm asking for the pass-through or things like that, I'm kind of imagining that is something that could potentially be added in. The switch from 1080 to 4K, I don't know if that's just a limitation of the processor itself, which is obviously is a factor in it, or if it's something that could potentially be turned on. I'm not sure about the technology behind the actual capture of the video. Like if we said, oh, could we just have like one 4K feed or two 4K feeds? Would that be possible? I don't know if it's technically possible for them to enable that or not. I will certainly ask the question though. Let's see. Does the RødeCaster video have MIDI control support for the audio? No, so I don't think it does. I mentioned that a bit earlier as well. I don't think it does have MIDI support in the same way that the RødeCaster Pro 2 and the Duo do. I didn't see it in the documentation, and I don't see it in Rode Central, which I would expect to see it in there. So I don't think it does. In the Rode Central, then like in system, there's no MIDI in here. And in here either. So I don't think there is. Whether that again is something that could be added in at a later date, potentially. I'm not sure, but I would guess that it's something that potentially could be added in. So we will see. Let me see where I'm up to. The processor would not handle 6 streams of 4K. They would need possibly 3 more processors, bigger box, heat and power management. Oh, well, that's the other thing. Yeah, heat and power, heat management that I'd completely skipped over. But the memory as well is the other one. As in physically storing. That was the other question that came up in our little backstage area before this started as well. Was like where do you store all of this isolated video? And I know that it's been covered in the other video, but basically there is on the back of the device in those inputs and outputs, you've got there 5 USB ports, and 1 and 2 are for audio to the computer and back from the computer. So that's your RødeCaster video main, chat, and secondary channel. The USB 1 is also where your video from the RødeCaster goes out to the computer. So it shows up on the computer as a camera source, obviously just, the program feed. And then that USB 2 is for the control of the RødeCaster video with Rode Central. Now that third USB channel then, that is just for a dedicated external device. So if you've got some sort of external drive, then you can connect that, and that's where you are then storing your video files and audio as well. So isolated video if you want. It can do just the program feed as well, but you can have the sort of multi-track audio and the isolated video coming out from all of those for HDMI camera inputs. And then those other 2 USBs there, USB 4 and 5, as I mentioned earlier, they can be for camera feeds if they are USB cameras, or indeed if you just plug a capture card in and take another HDMI feed in through a capture card in from there as well. So let's see where we're up to here. Can you use 2 sets of Rode Wireless Go Pros, for example, for a total of 4 mics? If so, can you control the gain of each mic individually through the RødeCaster video? You can connect 2 wireless mics directly, so you can have 2 wireless mics connected that way. What you could do for the other one then is you could have 2 the wireless. Let me try and sort out my mind here. You can have the receiver of the Rode wireless set, and then have 2 mics paired with that, and bring that in through one of the other mic channels, basically the hardwired mic channels. That would be a way that you could do that. I don't think you can. I'm just thinking those USB channels. You can connect the Rode wireless, the RødeCaster Pro and RødeCaster Duo to the video from those USB 4 and 5. I wonder if you can also plug in the receiver for a Rode Wireless Pro or Rode Go, because obviously you can connect those via USB into a phone, and I just wonder if you can plug those into one of those as well. In which case, you wouldn't need that extra adapter to go into the XL, the jack at the back for the XLR mic. So that could be a way to do it. I will try that out. I will ask and try that out. But yeah, potentially bringing in two of the wireless mics directly, basically using the 2 dedicated channels, and then bringing another 2 via the receiver into the through it that way, via the external receiver. Yeah, so only 2 wireless mics supported directly, but yeah, you could potentially add those in separately. Flying key is a DVE movement when keying. You can guess what my next question is. Yes, so I don't know. A DVE. So my next question is, what's a DVE movement? We can have a chain of conversations about this. Oh, there you go. Yeah, Doc's got the same answer. Just I hadn't read it yet. No backgrounds as far as I can see. No video backgrounds. So is that let's try that, because the video backgrounds, what I was talking about there was, if you've got a background here and you go to select what input you want, and the background you can select transparent or media. If I just drag and drop this on here, yeah, so it is actually working. That is, if you go to if the green screen key, you select green screen key, and then in this background, the default is going to be transparent. Where are we? Which one was it? This one. The background is default is transparent, but if you just go to media. It says drag and drop media from the media library here. That's going to become the background. Now, I obviously haven't got my green screen on, so it's not going to show up. But if I just drag this video and drop it onto where it says background, then you can indeed have a video background, because I can see the video is actually playing there, sort of behind me. That's the video that I've just dragged over, and it's kind of cute. Keying out a bit of the background because I've got a bit of blue in the background. So yeah, you can actually have a video background as in your green screen. So that's actually nice that you can do that. You can do that with do that with Ecamm as well, of course. But there you go. So let me just change out from there. So then let's have a look where we're up to with the things. Basically, so this is the flying key thing. Basically, can the key source move to A and move to B, like with the ATEM pip? I thought that's what they're called. Yeah, I don't think it can't move as such. So I think it's like a static video or static image. There you go. I completely agree with this. Like you like Ecamm better, so I won't be switching away from Ecamm as my my primary sort of live video production tool. But I would just love the multi-camera inputs from the RødeCaster video, so that then this just becomes the all-in-one. It would be the perfect pairing of audio and video, multi-camera, multi-audio source inputs to use with software. Yeah. The Mac Studio, this is such a common thing that comes up. People get so so stuck on this 4K 60, and somebody asking for 4K 120 the other day, and I was like, "What the hell are you doing? Where you need it to be 120 frames per second in a live stream?" There we go. I think some people don't know quite why they want what they want, but there you go. Mac Studio can't actually capture 4K 60. Development environment maxed out at 53 to 54 frames per second. 4K is highly misunderstood. Totally agree. Well, with all of that said, if there are any further questions about the RødeCaster video, then feel free to drop them in the chat or drop them in the comments if you're watching on replay. Another great place to drop those, by the way, would be in the Discord. So you can find that over at takeonetech.io/family. So I should have a link for that somewhere, shouldn't I? Where's it gone? There it is. So you can find that down there. By the way, I am currently working on a new course, which is the Studio Masterclass. And if you want to get access to that, you can go ahead and register. It will be out in probably a couple of weeks. But the RødeCaster video will feature in that as well. So it's going to be talking about really everything to do with building a studio, from lighting, cameras, all the different ranges of cameras that we've talked about on the market. We'll be talking about all those camera setups, and obviously audio with things like RødeCaster. Well, I say things like RødeCaster. There is only one, and that's what I'll be covering in it. And then also the RødeCaster video and Ecamm. So appreciating that there is, people who want a video switcher hardware, and other people who use software or use the two together. So I'll be covering all of that as well. So you can get sign up to that in the link that I dropped in the chat, and also in the description as well. You can also find links to my RødeCaster Masterclass, by the way, in there, which is all about the RødeCaster Pro 2 and RødeCaster Duo, if you are interested in that as well. Whilst I am just pimping my stuff, you can also register for the next opening for the Digital Stage Academy. So this is where basically you get access to all the courses, and there's lots of other learning resources that we have in there as well as weekly office hours sessions where we cover all of the sorts of things that we're talking about in here. But you can come and get your questions answered. And it's not actually just about the tech, although you get all the masterclasses on all the different things, but it's also workshops, and then talking about not just the tech, but as I say, the sort of business of using these things, because that's the way that I use this tech. I got a YouTube channel about it, but I'm using these things all the time for other purposes other than just live streaming to YouTube. And so that's what I talk about in the Academy as well. And there's lots of different options there for group coaching, one-to-one coaching as well. So you can find a link to that. As I say, the doors are temporarily closed at the moment, whilst closed to renovation. We've got lots of great members in there at the moment, but the next opening for this is coming up in just a couple of weeks. So drop your details in there if you would like to be notified to join the waitlist to join the Academy as well. So with that said, if there are any further questions, let me just check in. I always like to give a little bit of time for this because of the slight delay. And there we go. 4K, that's answered my question. 4K 120 is for console capture. So yeah, I get that with the pass-through, especially if you do want to capture that, then yeah, totally understand. Just not necessarily for a YouTube live stream necessarily, but I can't wait to see you too, Doc. It's I can't believe it's a year actually since Creator Camp. So this is the Ecamm Live Creator Camp in October. I'll be running one of the sessions there with Daniel Chi, all about presentations and using Ecamm for presentations. So yeah, I'm flying out on the 12th. So just a couple of weeks tomorrow, 2 weeks tomorrow, in fact, I shall be flying out, arriving in Boston on Sunday the 13th. Yeah, 27 hours travel time. In fact, more like 32 from where I am actually, because I've got to get down to Bangkok airport first. And then, yeah, the 12-hour time difference. So it's going to be a fun and games. jet lag experience. But there you go. Great to see you all though. Thanks for coming and hanging out. There'll be lots more videos all about the RødeCaster video coming out. I've got a whole series of tutorials planned, because it is, a really expansive machine in terms of what it can do. So I'm going to break down my lessons into some smaller bite-size pieces, and those will be rolling out over the next few days and weeks. Thanks so much for watching, and thanks as ever to my channel members. Really appreciate all of your support. I'll leave a link over here to some other Rode-related videos, though, for you to check out as well. Thanks so much. See you soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.